Over the years, there's been all kinds of movies released that center their plots around the concept of space and time. Terminator, Planet of the Apes, Interstellar, these are all just a few examples of science fiction that tackles that kind of subject. And it was something old school retro films couldn't get enough of. Scientists now agree that the universe began somewhere around 13.8 to as far back as 26.7 billion years ago. Time had a beginning. The Big Bang believed to being this catalyst, and the general concept of time itself has remained this interesting idea in relation to our modern day science fiction movies. Can you go backwards in time scientifically? Can you go forwards in time to the future? Or could it even be possible for the present to have different placements in the space-time continuum to fold into one another and create a sort of amalgamation of eras?
Yesterday, today, and tomorrow are constantly with us.
The Day Time Ended is a 1980 science fiction movie directed by John Bud Cardos. It stars Jim Davis, Christopher Mitchum, Marcy Lafferty, Natasha Ryan, Scott Colden, and Dorothy Malone. The movie starts off with an explosion of a supernova in deep space before transitioning into a small desert retreat where an American family has decided to stay. But over the course of the movie, strange occurrences and weird anomalies begin to interrupt their vacation and turn the entire event into a suspenseful situation of survival filled with supernatural events, UFOs, and even monsters. Now look, straight off the bat, the budget for this movie is pretty low. Believe it or not, this whole movie only cost the filmmakers like $600,000 to make, which was shocking for me because, while I know that the locations they're filming in are pretty limited, the stop motion effects here, especially for the monsters, look outrageously cool. They aren't exactly the stars of the movie, but I'd argue that their introduction and execution kind of became a highlight of the whole thing. But even before that happens, you get like a very tense atmosphere where things aren't really explained and spooky stuff goes down for seemingly no reason. But to be real with you guys, I just think the whole thing kind of works. In fact, I'd argue for the kind of movie this is trying to be, it works really well. What I think works the best for this movie is just the insane atmosphere of it all. You know, you get your typical 1970s or early 80s era family just hanging out, having fun, but it's mixed with the old school science fiction elements and ideas from the same time. And I don't know, it just all blends into this really entertaining, like, supernatural thriller kind of a movie, only family based. And part of why I think it works really, really well is the fact that it just doesn't make any sense, and it isn't even trying to. I mean, it's all revolving around the concept of time and how things in the past that have happened affect things in the future and vice versa. Everything's all interrelated, and it kind of builds this little space-time warp world of mystery where anything can happen at any given point in time. How could you not have fun with a concept like that? At one point, there's this little stop-motion man that starts to dance around the young girl's room before these little killer spaceships start to burn down your door. All the while, there's these like weird stars floating around. And by the way, guys, the special effects in this movie are actually really good. The Day Time Ended may be more of a cult movie than what you'd actually call a quality suspense thriller, but I'd argue that the overall tone and look of the film is supremely underrated in proportion to its budget. This is just a wacky science fiction adventure with a ton of like elaborate special effects work that's built into its space-time premise, and it just works really well with all of that.
What is this, Dad? It doesn't make any sense at all.
Now look guys, you know me, I will admit that there are some hokey ideas and things that happen in this movie a lot. But with a project like this, you kind of hope for that to be the case, if you know what I mean. It's also got some fun trivia with Marcy Lafferty being nominated for Best Supporting Actress at the Saturn Awards, but she ended up losing to Veronica Cartwright from Alien, of all things. So, I mean, if you're gonna lose, maybe you should lose to one of the best science fiction horror movies ever made, right? But look guys, it also, get this, it also happened to have its soundtrack beat out Star Trek: The Motion Picture as the first official digital soundtracked album. I don't know how that works, but hey, there's something I bet a lot of you didn't know. Honestly, guys, if you just put yourself in the shoes of the protagonists that are just interacting with everything in this movie, it kind of becomes peak level old school science fiction fun, and you start to get giant reptilian monsters that are showing up in front of your house from a time warp, or little spaceships start flying around the falling angelic beings from the skies. You get a sense of mystery and even suspense. And at times, this whole thing just feels very authentic. It's not the greatest science fiction movie ever made by a long shot, but the stop motion special effects, especially with the monsters fighting and just seeing them outside of like some stables with horses, immediately made my mind flash back to the Valley of Guanji. And I don't know, man, I just had a really good time watching this movie. It's only an hour and 20 minutes and sort of has this tacked on ending, but I enjoyed it all. I'd love to see these things fight Godzilla, by the way, too. The Daytime Ended is a movie that up until very recently I had never seen before. But I did want to watch it for a while. In fact, I even made a note of it a while back. I was like, I knew it had something to do with Earth or world in the title, but that was only because it was originally supposed to be called Earth's Final Fury. And when you think about old sci-fi with something like Earth or world in the title, a bunch of stuff comes up, and none of which was the movie I was looking for. So yes, it did take me a while, but I finally got around to watching it. It's available like everywhere, by the way. You can find this movie very easily, even on YouTube. And look, guys, for a movie that came out directly after Star Wars and right around the time the first Star Trek movie came out, The Daytime Ended is surprisingly satisfying for such a smaller scale product. I know that this isn't going to be talked about by a lot of people that are into monster movies, but when you get movies like this, sometimes you just have to go over them and you look at what was lost to time. How ironic. Anyways, guys, those are all just my own thoughts about The Daytime Ended, a stop-motion science fiction monster movie with a lot of weird Star Trek and like space time warp ideas thrown into the mix. Really cool special effects work, especially with the falling like stars zooming around the screen, and who doesn't like stop-motion monsters? But look, guys, while the plot's not exactly something to write home about, it's fun, and it's like that late 70s cheese that's just really, really cool. Anyways, whatever your own thoughts and opinions on The Daytime Ended have to be, I'd love to hear all about them in the comments down below. Let me tell you something, brother. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I really appreciate it, and if you'd like to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you can be updated when I put out new videos. God bless you all. Christ is King. I hope you all enjoyed your time, and as always, take it easy.